Where you at, Deacon? And don't forget, you can also give us a call throughout these conversations, 202-750-9112. Once again, these conversations is for you and about you. Everything we do is, there you go, Deacon, I got you. There we go.
Yes,
Everything we do is for you and about you. So don't forget, man, these conversations are for you. And you can also drop the comments that you have below in the comment section on the Instagram Live, or you can just simply give us a call. Once again, that number is 202-750-9112. Yo, Deacon, how you feeling today? It's Winning Wednesday.
I'm good. I'm good.
You look good. I like your haircut. I see you.
Thanks. Yeah. It's getting warm.
How's the family? How's everybody?
Everybody's good. Everything's good. It's just, everything's good.
I'm with it.
Nothing much going on.
Let's go ahead and kick off the conversation then, man. We are midway into February, and February is Black History Month. February is when we are given the time to honor our history and the history that our forefathers and our ancestors had created. And I know you got something for us today when it comes to Black history. And my question for you before you really get into it is, like, what part of Black history makes you excited, though, Deacon? It seems like not much excites you. So what part about Black history? What part about Black history makes you excited?
Well, Black History Month to me is an underestimation of our people, considering that our people have contributed a lot more than just a month to the world, in terms of inventions, in terms of rulership, kingdoms we had, biblically, historically, Dark Ages. I mean, we ruled for hundreds of thousands of years on this earth as the dominating force, and that's an unspoken history. Mm-hmm. So Black History Month to me is an insult, because there's only a month, considering that our history transcends beyond months. It goes centuries, not just a month. Mm-hmm.
And I know one of the hashtags that you guys were using, well, you and your tribe, your family was using, as was posting and promoting for the show, is that Christ is Black. And that really stood out to me. Get into it a little bit about that. When you speak Christ is Black, and especially during Black History Month, what is that?
Well, the Bible speaks about the Messiah being a Black man. Most would argue and say that he's not, or most would argue and say it doesn't matter, or that's metaphorical, things of that nature. And that's all lies. The Messiah's color does very much matter, just as much as Malcolm X's color matters, just as much as Medgar Evers' color matters, just as much as Fred Hampton's color mattered, just as much as Huey P. Newton's color mattered. These are Black revolutionaries. These are Pan-Africanists. The Messiah was a Pan-Africanist. The Messiah was a Black revolutionary. So if you're going to speak on Black revolutionaries, it's very, very much important to emphasize on the Blackness of those Black revolutionaries. And the Messiah was one of the greatest Black revolutionaries ever known. And he was killed somewhat the same way Malcolm was killed. Fred Hampton was killed. Who else was killed? Nat Turner was killed.
Can we throw Martin Luther King?
Martin Luther King is a different case, I would say. In terms of traitors. Okay. In terms of having the traitors among you.
I'm going to ask you that. I'm going to ask you to explain that, but keep going.
So Fred Hampton was killed by a traitor. Well, so the movie came out. A great movie came out.
Informant, like someone in the
right. The Messiah was killed.
It's a lot of conspiracies. Allegedly Jesse Jackson had something to do with it. Allegedly.
Yeah, I've heard that. I'm not sure. That's why I didn't really touch on it. I've heard that. I didn't touch on it. It's not concrete, but I've heard rumors swing around. He was behind it. Maybe so. But I know concretely, Fred Hampton, William O'Neill was behind that. Mm-hmm. Malcolm X, I'm hearing, him definitely had informants around him. Okay. His own people hated his guts. He spoke about that himself. Mm-hmm. So I speak on things I know, affirmatively. But the Messiah was also betrayed by his own people. Judas Iscariot, after the movie's called Judas the Black Messiah, mm-hmm. because COINTELPRO was an organization that was founded on destroying any rising new Black Messiah, aside from the one that existed thousands of years ago. So what I want to go into is I mentioned the first black Messiah, Moses. He was a black Messiah, and I'm going to read about him. He was a child of Israel.
And when you say black Messiah, right? Black Messiah is really like a character, or is it a person?
What do you mean in terms of Cointel Pro's identification of a black Messiah, or a black Messiah in general?
A black Messiah in general. Is it a character, like a character that you put on someone or something, or is it an actual person? And I'm sorry.
Biblically speaking, the black Messiah is a black Messiah, as a Messiah was a Negro.
Okay.
Period.
Okay.
In terms of Cointel Pro, black Messiah basically is the destruction, neutralizing, isolating, or demonizing, destroying any potential black leader that can help to liberate and unify the minds of black people from white supremacy. That is the black Messiah under Cointel Pro's designation.
So that's how.
Right.
And no, I'm just asking. So that's how, in layman's term, how Fred Hampton got the coin phrase of the black Messiah, because of what
he was. Not just him. Cointel Pro had many black messiahs listed. Martin Luther King was one.
Okay.
Malcolm X was one.
Okay.
Fred Hampton was one. Huey P. Newton was one. Bobby Seale was one. Stokely Carmichael was one. These are black men who were leaders,
awesome.
Natural born leaders, men who were charismatic, men who were seen as a threat, not only because they were black, but also because of their potential to rise up black minds and liberate black minds to unify and come together and fight against white supremacy. That's what a black Messiah was to Cointel Pro.
Gotcha.
But historically, I'm sorry.
No, I was just gonna say it makes a lot of sense in general, because I've always heard the character of the black Messiah, but I never understood really where it was coming from in the understanding, because for some reason how I read the Bible and how I interpreted, I took it as if it was a person. But I do understand it is a person, but it's many people. It's something that you take on based on the liberation that you're seeking to find out of your people.
Right. You have many messiahs in the Bible, but the Messiah the Bible's prophesied of that would come and die for the sins of the people, there's just one. Okay. But you have many messiahs before him. You had Moses, he was a messiah. You had Joshua, he was a messiah. You had Nehemiah, Zerubbabel, Joshua. Okay. These are messiahs.
But when you hit a black messiah, it's really coined as a terminology that can be seen as bad.
For white supremacists, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
For the government, yes. Mm-hmm. Yes. The Bible is a book that creates black messiahs. It definitely is that. The Maroons were black messiahs. Nani and Cujo, those of you who are from the Caribbean are familiar with who that is. They use the Bible as a book of liberation. Now, Turner used the. Yes, they came out of the Ashantis. Marcus Garvey, another Ashanti, used the Bible as a book of liberation. He was also, before he was under Operation Black Desk. That's before Cointel Pro. You had Operation Black Desk. That's before it was kind of Cointel Pro wasn't yet fully organized.
What was the function of the black desks all over the country? I guess there were dozens.
The function of the black desk was to monitor activity, social unrest, revolutionary groups, cultural groups, and such in the black community.
And feed it into this central desk. And it still exists?
As far as I know, yes.
J. Edgar Hoover revolutionized black desk pretty much.
And before Black Desk, it was black codes. They don't get
black codes, Jim Crow, Juan Crow.
They don't get too creative, do they, Deacon?
Not really. I mean, when black people can't read, they don't have to. When you don't read, and your brain is washed and cleaned, and you're in a world of ignorance, you don't have to really, hide too much. But the first black Messiah I read about, he was a child of Israel. He was an Israelite, as they would say. Exodus 2, his name was Moses. He was born, and he was a Messiah there's a movie called 10 Commandments, with Charlton Heston, and people, they play it they play it on TV when I was younger, every Christmas. They played it on TV every Christmas. It's called the Ten Commandments. And there was a scene, not biblical, but it was a pretty good scene where the Pharaoh had spoke the people, the slaves, the Hebrews who were in his kingdom that were slaves. It was rumored among the Hebrews that a black Messiah was coming to liberate them out of Egypt. So I'm paraphrasing it. So Pharaoh says to his men, his men say to him, listen, his council say, listen, there's a rumor among the slaves that a Messiah is coming to save them. So Pharaoh said, well, I don't really care much about whether or not there's a Messiah. The question is, do they believe in the Messiah? Do the people believe in this coming Messiah? That's his fear. He didn't care about the Messiah. His fear was that the people believe in this Messiah. So our people believe in the Messiah, but they don't. But a lot of people know about Messiah. But the question is, do they believe in that Messiah? That's the difference. You can know about Messiah all day. Do you believe in that Messiah is where the threat comes in. Because once you believe in that Messiah, then of course you will begin to make preparations for him to show up. And that preparation for him to show up involves change. But I'll get to that.
And that's crazy. I want you to
Mm-hmm.
finish, but what you just said, I cannot quote, Fred Hampton word from word, but that was something similar to what he was saying as they were labeling him the Black Messiah, pretty much saying that that's what we need. We need more, we don't need more advice, or we don't need more guidance. We need more discipline, and we need more structure in that way that you were just talking about. And he literally said that in the interview. So
he did. And they did. Our not him, he was our forefather, but our brothers back then, they were close, but not quite. I said that before. They were close, but not quite. I'll get to that, what I mean. They have Exodus 2. And they were sent the man of the house of Levi and took up to a wife, a daughter of Levi. And the woman conceived and bare a son. And when she saw him, he was a goodly child. And he was a handsome baby, beautiful baby. She hid him 3 months. And when she could no longer hide him, she took for him an ark of bulrushes. Reason being is because the Pharaoh, when it was rumored that a Messiah was coming to save them, Pharaoh let out a decree to kill all the Hebrew males. He said, kill all the Hebrew. That's what this is the reason behind why he want all the Hebrew males killed. So they took the baby males and they threw them in the river and fed them to the alligator god. The alligator god was Sobek. That was a gator god of the Egyptians. His name was Sobek, S-O-B-E-K. And they would take our babies and they threw them into the river, and the alligators would eat them, which is very much similar to what happened to us on this side of the world in Florida, when they would take our babies, put them in a net, and leave them in the swamp, and the alligator would come out the water and chop our babies, and they would catch the gators and reel them in and kill it and turn them into shoes and bags. Gator bait. That's the same thing. It's pretty much the same thing. History repeats itself. So in Egypt, they were doing the same thing with our babies, throw them in the water because of the fear of a Black Messiah and hatred for us as well. And then you had now in Florida, same thing, feeding our babies to gators. So the mother, Jochebed, took Moses, put him in a little ark, a little boat, and sent them up into the river. It says, and daubed it with slime and with pitch, and put the child there and laid it in the flags of the rivers, laid it in the flags by the river's brink. And his sister, Miriam, stood afar off to what would be done to him. She watched the little boat float. She was following it. And the daughter of Pharaoh came down to wash herself at the river, and her maidens walked along by the river's side. And when she saw the ark among the flags, she sent her maid to fetch it. And when she had opened it, she saw the child, and behold, the babe wept, and she had compassion on him, and said, "This is one of the Hebrews' children." She knew that because it was predominantly a custom that the Hebrew males be circumcised. So because among the pharaohs, that wasn't common practice. That was so much of a ritual practice, so it wasn't common among all of them. But among the Hebrew males, it was common among all of us to be circumcised. So she knew, based upon that's a Hebrew male. Then said his sister to Pharaoh's daughter, "Shall I go and call thee a nurse of the Hebrew women, that she may nurse the child for thee?" And Pharaoh's daughter said to her, "Go and And the maid went and called the child's mother. So she said, go get the child's mother. And Pharaoh's daughter said unto her, take this child away and nurse it for me, and I will give thee thy wages. And the woman took the child and nursed it. And the child grew, and she brought him unto Pharaoh's daughter, and he became her son. And she called him his name Moses. And she said, because I drew him out of the water. Like Moses, same thing. Moses, same thing. Moses. And it came to pass in those days when Moses was grown, that he went out unto his brethren and looked on their burdens, and he spied an Egyptian smiting in the Hebrew, one of his brethren. So he sees his brother being beaten or whatever. So it says, and he looked this way and that way, and when he saw that there was no man, he slew the Egyptian and hid him in the sand. When he went out the second day, behold, 2 men of the Hebrews, his own brothers, strove together, and he said to them, that did the wrong, wherefore smitest thou this fellow, thy fellow? Why are you fighting your brother for? And he said, who made thee a prince and judge over us? So the brother that did the wrong, he said, who made you a leader over us? Kind of like what black folks say today, only God can judge me. Who are you to judge me? It's the same mentality, the same thing. Moses is looking out for his brother. He's saying, why are you doing this? He says, who made you a judge over us? Intendest thou to kill me as thou killest the Egyptian? So it was known that Moses did. Someone saw it. And Moses feared and said, surely this thing is known. Meaning, okay, I'm caught. So Moses ran away. Now, when Pharaoh heard this thing, he sought to slay Moses. But Moses fled from the face of Pharaoh and dwelt in the land of Midian, and he sat down by a well. So I read on. Now the priests of Midian had 7 daughters, and they came and drew water and filled the troughs to water their father's flock. And the shepherds came and drove them away. Some shepherds came bothering them and drove them away from the well. But Moses stood up and helped them and watered their flock. And when they came to Reuel, or Jethro, their father, he said, how is it that all come so soon today? And they said, an Egyptian delivered us out of the hand of the shepherds, and also drew water enough for us and watered the flock. This is important because they refer to Moses as an Egyptian. Mm-hmm. Now, if anyone knows history, the ancient Egyptians were very, very dark people. So these women, Jethro's daughters, these were Ethiopian women. Now, Ethiopians and Egyptians are the same family. So they would not know, they would not be confused if he looked like anything else. They obviously called him an Egyptian man. They called Moses an Egyptian. Where's Egypt located? Egypt is in Africa. So they called Moses an African because Moses passed for an Egyptian. Moses was raised as Pharaoh's son. He was raised as a child of Pharaoh. Okay? So for him to be raised as an Egyptian and pass for an Egyptian, which is an African, Moses looked like a black man. Moses was an Israelite, and he was a black man. This is a black man. Okay? That's just one instance. So we have Moses passing as an Egyptian. Moses passing as an African man. This is an Israelite man. Okay? A man of color. He was not a white man dressed in Egyptian clothing. They would have known he was not an Egyptian man because Ethiopians and Egyptians are on the same continent. They're the same family lineage. They're Hamites. So they would have known whether he was an Egyptian or a white guy dressed in Egyptian clothes. So evidently, he passed for an African man. He was raised as an African child. Remember, during the time he was being raised, they were killing the Hebrew males. But he got a pass because Pharaoh's daughter had mercy on him. She loved him. He was a beautiful boy. She raised him as her own. She let his mother nurse him. And then after she let the mother nurse him, she raised him as her own. Okay, she wasn't a mother, so she didn't have no milk. So she's okay, well, you nurse him. You nourish him up and then give him back to me when you're done. He's done being nursed and you wean him off the milk, then give him to me. Because remember, they can't have no Hebrew males because they were being killed. So the mother gave him into the hands of Pharaoh's daughter. He was raised as an Egyptian man or boy, baby. So I'm showing you evidence that the Israelites were, in fact, people of color. This is my point. Moses, his mother was a black woman. His father was a black man. He was raised as an African man. He was seen as an African baby as an African boy, he was recognized or confused with an African man. I'm emphasizing this because people read the Bible with white eyes, white supremacist eyes. Oh, he was Caucasian. No. He was Jewish. No. He was not Jewish. He was not an Israeli. He was an Israelite, and he passed for an African. So the Israelites look like black people.
Can you explain that breakdown before you get into the next chapter when it comes down to an Israelite and an Israeli? Like, what is that?
Sure.
For people who
I'll give you the website to go to. You can go to a website called etymologyonline.com. Etymology means the knowledge of is the learning is the origin of a word. Etymology. ETYMOLOGY, whatever. You figure it out.
You got it. Don't ask
right.
me.
Anyway, etymology is the origin of a word.
Somebody dropped etymology, the spelling of it in the comments.
Right, it'll pop up. Right. Etymologyonline.com. When you go there, type in Israeli. ISRAELI. Okay, type that in. When you read the definition, I can't go to it now, I'll sign out. When you read the definition, the word Israeli was a term that was coined in 1948, which is the same year that Israel was established as a state. When those Jewish people gained possession of the land of Israel today. Okay, they gained that possession of that land today. Thank you. Someone put it on the chat. Etymology, right? So go to that, then add online.com. There you go. So if you type in Israeli,
we appreciate you dropping in the chat.
Yes, thank you. The term was coined in 1948 by Jewish people, Jewish-ish people, and it was a term that basically means an inhabitant of the land of Israel. That's what it means, an inhabitant of the land, distinguished from the descendant of the people. So what I'm saying to you is that when they call themselves Israelis, they're saying that they're not Israelites as in they're the people who originally were there or the descendants of the man Israel himself. They're not that. They're Israelis. I mean, they just live there.
Like we
but they're not
American.
Correct. We're not right. So they're not really so Israelites is a biblical word. You'll find it all through the Bible. An Israelite is a descendant of Israel himself. Like an Ishmaelite. Ishmael was a child of Abraham, and he fathered the Islamic Arabs today. The ones that's blowing themselves up. Blow things up. The wild ones that cut people's heads off and all that crazy stuff. That's Ishmael. That's and they know they're Ishmael. They don't deny it. Hagar is their mother. And Abraham is their father. Huh?
What's the difference between that? Explain that for me.
Well, Ishmael is the older brother of Isaac. Isaac is the father of Jacob and his twin brother Esau. Abraham had many kids, but the most important ones the Bible speaks on, the first one he had was Ishmael. The Muslim, Malcolm X was the follower of Ishmael, their religion, Islam. That's Ishmael's religion. That's them. Muhammad was an Ishmaelite. Muhammad had 12 sons, like Jacob had 12 sons. And out of those 12 sons of Ishmael, the Kodesh tribe, Muhammad comes out of that. They acknowledge themselves as Ishmaelites, no doubt. Okay? They were also.
And that's pretty much saying they're the son.
Right. So Ishmael had children, they're Ishmaelites.
So they're just saying they're the son. That's pretty much
the children of. It is the children of.
Yeah, okay, I get that.
There's Israeli is just you just live there.
That's what I'm saying. So that they're not really representing a country. They're representing
residents.
Residency. Talk to me about that. That's a little confusing too.
No. They don't represent the descendants of the people. They're just residents of the land. That's all it means.
So when we go into war, but they act like we're going to war for the land.
Who do you mean?
Like when you say like what you say, Ishmaeli?
Ishmaelites.
Ishmaelites. When we have conversations, you know, America and Ishmaelites, like it's like if we're going to war with them. Like,
oh, you mean the Arabs?
Yes.
Right. Well, we're not going to war with them. I got a problem with Israelites. I got a problem with Arabs. That's Caucasians and Arab problem. They're fighting over the land. That's their problem. Nothing to do with me.
That's a whole nother conversation.
That's not another conversation. It's a conversation that doesn't involve me per se, because the land doesn't belong to either one of them. The land belongs to me.
I feel that.
They're both fighting over land that don't belong to either one of them.
Okay, so that's
only a piece, not even the whole thing.
That's what I was confused about, because when you just broke that down, it was something that was missing. So the piece
you're
fighting over land that's not either.
You're referring to Palestinians. Palestinians, the biblical name they go by are Ishmaelites. They're children of Ishmael. They know this. They don't deny it. I've spoken to Arabs. They tell me. I ask them, "Who is your forefather?" They'll say, "Oh, my forefather is Ishmael." I say, "Who's mine?" Then they smile. "Oh, Yitzhak. They say to me. Yitzhak is Isaac. I say, "Okay, my father's Isaac." Yes. I said, "Which son of his is my father?" Then they smile again, because they don't want us to know that stuff. You understand? I'll get to that when the time allows. But I'm gonna tell you why they don't say which child of Isaac I belong to, because they know who we are. They call us Yaqub. Yaqub, you're Yehudi. Yaqub. You're children of Yaqub, they say. Or Beni Musa. That means Jacob. Or they call us Beni Musa. I mean, sons of Moses. They call us that too.
Because you're an Israelite.
Right. And they know that.
So
they know that.
And the fathers separate ideas and principles.
The fathers are the ones who determine the nationality.
I know, but I'm saying as far as right now in today's conversation, the fathers are the ones who really separate the ideas and principles, you know, that Israelites fall behind, and the other group that you were, because I don't want to mispronounce their name, the other group that you were talking about, what they go as far as what they were doing with Jacob.
Right. Well, you mean the fathers? You mean fathers?
Like their fathers, like they sound like your fathers.
Oh, yes. Their forefathers. Yeah, their forefathers. Yeah. Well, I'm gonna get to why they don't say what I said earlier about why they smile when I asked them. Because I've asked the Arabs. I speak to them. I've asked because Arabs. I eat halal food. They got the dietary law to an extent. So when I go to those restaurants, I ask questions. I asked the guy. I said, I asked an Arab. He was a white Arab. I call white Arab because he's really pale, red hair. He's a Turk, really a Turk. I asked him. I said, what color were the Hebrews when they was in Egypt in the Bible? He was like, he pointed like this. He pointed to me. I said, like me? He said, mm-hmm. I said, what happened to that color? He said, oh, they changed color over the time. I said, yeah? Then he threw our food down. He was mad. He didn't like my question. Because these nations know. We're the only ones that don't know who we are. Black History Month, black is not a nationality. Black is a color of people. You had many black nations. You had Arabs that were black before, Syrians that are black before, Hawaiians are black, Filipinos, Vietnamese. These are black people. These are not brown. These are black people. So when you say black, that's a very vague term. Vague. It's not an ethnicity. It's not a nationality. It's a color. So I'm gonna go back to my point. Moses again passed for an Egyptian. I'm just gonna make that clear. He was born to pass an Egyptian. Now I'm gonna get somebody else. I'm gonna get Joseph, who was also a child. He was a forefather of two tribes, Ephraim and Manasseh. Okay. Now Joseph's brothers, Jacob had 12 sons, and Joseph was one of them. Joseph was number 11.
Wow.
Okay. He was a baby. Benjamin. So he was number 11. Not number 11, but he was one of the 12. And he was Jacob's favorite. No, his parents got favorites. They ain't gonna tell you, but every parent got favorites. Anyway, he was the favorite, and the brothers knew he was the favorite, and they didn't like him because of it. And he had a dream that his brothers would one day bow down to him, and that made them more upset. So they basically threw him in a ditch somewhere. Then Ishmaelites came, and they took him and sold him as a slave into Egypt. And when he got there, I'm just cutting through a lot of reading. Mm-hmm. He gained status while he became vizier or governor over Egypt, based upon his dreams and visions. So I'm gonna get Genesis 49, 42. I'm gonna read verse 6. Now there was a famine that took place. He prophesied that there'll be a 7-year famine, and we all know a country cannot survive a 7-year famine if they don't prepare. So he basically spoke about a famine coming to Egypt, in the neighboring lands, including Israel, because Israel, the land of Israel itself, was part of Northeast Africa. Okay, the land of Israel. I'm gonna say it again. The land of Israel, or Israel, Zion, is part of Africa. Then they built in the 1900s. They built something called the Suez Canal. The Suez Canal was a man-made dam or man-made river that they built to separate the lands from each other. So that way, they no longer say that Israel is part of Africa now, because they built the dam in between so that the lands are divided. So now Egypt is over here, Israel's over here, when initially that wasn't so.
Is that a good thing or a bad thing in your opinion?
It's conspiratorial. It's a conspiracy thing, because there was no reason to build that dam. Now, it was a business thing, of course, but there was more behind it than just...
Who benefits more, Egypt or Israel?
Huh?
Who benefits more, Egypt or Israel?
America does. It's America and Israel are...
I love you, Deacon, for real.
America and Israel are allies. Okay. It's a trade route. It's a trade route.
I feel that.
It's a trade route. I'll put it that way. So the land being divided, you can no longer say that Israel is part of Africa because they built the dam there. Not that it makes a difference, because Cape Verde is an African island, but it's not part of Africa, but it's along the coast. But it's still part of it. But what ended up happening was, let's get to the point, is that Israel was part of Africa. Israel is in Africa. That's my point. Israel is Africa, part of Africa. Not fully, but part of Africa. That's my point.
So let's say you wanted to travel there now. What kind of passport or visa would you have to get?
What, to go to Israel now? I don't know. I haven't been. We've gone. I didn't get a chance to go. My elder, they went. My brothers went. They went down there. I'm not sure. I have to ask them that. Okay. I didn't get the pleasure of going. I like to go. Not really to Israel. I want to go to Egypt instead. I want to go to Israel because nothing's there. It's a desert. It's a wasteland. They have to everything over there is imported. It's not much to look at. Aside from seeing Israelis living in my land that don't really belong there, that's all you're going to really see. Mm-hmm. But that's another topic. But Genesis 42 and 6, it says, and Joseph was the governor over the land, and he it was that sold to all the people of the land. And Joseph's brethren came. His brothers came. They're older now. Remember, he was sold in slavery. They threw him in a ditch, basically. He couldn't get out. When they came back, he was gone. So they didn't know what happened to him. So they think he's dead and gone somewhere. Mm-hmm. Now, so he's alive. They come to Egypt because Egypt was prepared for the famine. There was food there. His brothers show up to buy food because there was famine in the land. It says his brethren came and bowed down themselves before him, like he dreamed they would do when he was younger. Mm-hmm. And with their faces to the earth. And Joseph saw his brethren, and he knew them, but made himself strange unto them. Meaning he disguised himself. Meaning they didn't recognize him. He didn't say to him, "Hey, it's me, Joseph." He kept it to himself, and spake roughly unto them. And he said unto them, "Whence come ye?" Meaning, why you here? And they said, "From the land of Canaan to buy food," because there was a famine. And Joseph knew his brethren, but they knew not him. Mm. Why? Why didn't they recognize Joseph? Now remember, if the Israelites were white people, and Joseph is a white man wearing Egyptian clothing, you would know that's your brother. You understand? This is a man, he's an Egyptian governor in their eyes. So when he spoke to them, they did not recognize him. While he's dressed in Egyptian garments. Mm-hmm. The makeup, the ornaments, the head covers, the beard, all of that. His face is shaven. They didn't recognize him. So I'm going to jump down.
And Deacon, too, when you finish, I got 2 more topics I want to get into. We got about 15 minutes left.
Sure. So I'm going to go down. It says verse 22, and Reuben answered them, saying, Spake I not unto you, saying, do not any sin against the child, Joseph, and ye would not bear here. Therefore, behold, also his blood is required. I mean, now we get what we deserve because we killed Joseph. I told you, brothers, don't bother it. Don't kill Joseph. Don't do that to him. You didn't listen. Now what's up? Because Joseph dealt roughly with them. Verse 23. And they knew not that Joseph understood them, for he spake unto them by an interpreter. So Joseph was passed for an Egyptian. Brothers didn't recognize him. Moses passed for an Egyptian. Jethro's daughters recognized him as Egyptian. I'm showing you 2 Israelite men passing for Egyptians. So why am I emphasizing this? Because the Messiah was an Israelite just as Joseph was, just as Moses was. So if these 2 men passed for black people, then the Messiah obviously was a black man. That's my point. That's the point I'm bringing across. I'll go to Revelation 1:14 and 15. Hair of wool, feet of brass. Many of you are familiar with it. Many of you are not. Some of y'all will say that's metaphorical, that's symbolic because you're something wrong with you. But I'm showing you that his forefathers, his foreparents, and the foreparents of his brethren, the Messiah, were passing as Africans. Mm-hmm. And when you look at any Egyptian artifacts, ancient ones, of Repetiti, Ramses, Tutmosis, Ahmose, these are jet black people. On the walls, you have Israelites on the walls, drawn on the walls as slaves in Egypt as black people with afros. They refer to them as Asiatics, Habirus, which is Hebrews or whatever. These are Israelites. Joseph was on the walls of Egypt.
So history, like you said, it's untimely.
It transcends 28 days. Mm-hmm. It's an insult. It's an insult.
Exactly. I agree with you, and I appreciate you.
It's a mockery.
When it comes to our history, I definitely learned a lot about this beginning of the conversation with a lot of things that you said. I'm sure that everyone who's listening as well is taking some notes. Deacon, before we get into these next 2 topics, I want to get in. Shout yourself out once again for the people who are just now tuning in. This is a monthly conversation we do every month with the Deacon. You can find more information about what the Deacon has going on with him and his tribe. Let the people know, Deacon.
I'm Deacon Athan of Israel United in Christ. Israel United in Christ. Our website is israelunite.org for more information. We have many YouTube channels, IUIC events. Our bishop does a lot of topics and current events and classes called IUIC events on YouTube. You have IUIC in the classroom too. You have IUIC Atlanta Burning. YouTube channel. You have Our Hidden History. I do history classes if you're interested in history. I have a channel called Our Hidden History Radio. Our Hidden History Radio on YouTube as well. I do history classes every Sunday on how vast and deep our history goes from the Americas to Africa.
My first hearing about that one, Deacon. You holding out on me?
I have a podcast. No, we have a YouTube channel now.
Personal one. I gotta know that now. I'm going to.
Yeah, we have. Yeah, every Sunday we broadcast from IUIC Atlanta Burning on YouTube, and you can also watch the classes that were recorded on IUIC TV. We have IUIC TV. We have an app for your Fire Stick, IUIC TV, where I show our classes broadcast on there. We have content on there, and we have again our Hidden History Radio. So I think I'm in chapter 23 right now. You can talk from chapter 1 about the Native Americans' history here in this side of the world, the Aztecs, the Mayans, the Incas, the Sioux, the Iroquois, the Choctaw, Chickasaw. I go into the history of them and their forebearers and how they got arrived over here, what they called themselves, what they were doing on this side of the world, and also how that goes into our people on the other side of the world. Israel and Africa, Europe, Britain, Ireland. I go into that history about the Moors, Spain, Portugal, the Phoenicians, which are Israelites that traveled and did trade. Our history is very vast. And those classes is a lot more than 28 days. So if you want to learn history, you can watch that.
I love that you keep making that point, man. I'm
going to keep making that point. And the bishop also... Right. The bishop also, you go to IUIC events, he does a lot of history lessons, a lot to the into mind. So you can go to IUIC events. He brings out a lot of history books of our forefathers who ruled over Europe for 1,000 years. Beyond 1,000 years, you had King Charlemagne, King Arthur, you had King Constantine, King James, King James, Black, King Charles, his son, James II, the first, the fourth, the third. These are all Black men. Bloody Mary, his mother, Mary Darnley, Black, King Darnley, Black. We have their images. Beethoven, I went over that. Beethoven, Black. Mozart, Black. We got images of them. Haydn, Black. All these popular musicians and composers are Black. Called Moors. We go over that in Our Hit History Radio. We go over that. So if you're interested, you can go there and tune into that. And IUIC events, go to that. So like I said, our history goes way beyond 28 days. All right. The Messiah is Black. Moses is Black. Joseph was the Messiah. He was Black. Paul, when you read the New Testament, was called an Egyptian. Book of Acts. Peter, Simeon, Acts 13:1. If I can get that real quick. I don't need another topic. I'm going to give you something real quick. On the apostle, real quick. Acts 13, verse 1. Some of you may have heard of the Niger River, Nigeria. But the word Niger River, the word Niger was not pronounced Niger. That was later. That's new. The correct pronunciation.
To figure that out.
Yeah, well, you can go beyond that, but the correct pronunciation of the word Niger is not Niger. It's the word that we use all the time in the streets. And if they called us in slavery, it's nigger. That's the pronunciation. That's how it's pronounced. Now they go Niger in French, Niger. No, it's nigger. That's how it's pronounced. Acts 13:1. This says, now there were in the church that was at Antioch or Syria. This is their disciples. Certain prophets and teachers, as Barnabas is one, and Simeon that was called nigger. So Simeon, an apostle, was called nigger. Why? Because he was Black. It says, and Lucius of Cyrene. Cyrene is Libya. Okay, that's Africa. So you had the disciples called nigger. So I'm just giving you numerous instances where our forefathers made it very clear they were Black. Okay, so Messiah, being a disciple, an Israelite, as all the other disciples at the church, was called nigger. The Messiah is Black. Moses is Black. Joseph was Black. Paul was Black. This is common knowledge. This is common. No, not common. It's uncommon to us, but common to those. But uncommon to those who don't read anything.
Exactly.
Or choose not to.
Doing their own research. I agree with you.
Right.
Definitely.
Right.
Make sure you guys check out the Deacon and everything that he has going on. I definitely encourage you to do so you can get more information, learn so much more. It's time for us to re-educate ourselves. You know, it's really time for us to step up to the plate and want to be educated and gain that knowledge. No more excuses as to we didn't learn this in our secondary schools, high schools. No more excuses when we have the power of the internet right at our fingertips. But Deacon, I wanted to get into this conversation surrounding about the history that's being created right now in this tri-state area. Gun violence is up on a whole nother Richter scale, as far as what's happening, especially here in the city of Philadelphia. We have over 70 homicides already, and today's only the 24th of February, So I wanted to just get your opinion about what do you think is, transpiring in these streets? What are your thoughts on the gun violence that's happening in this tri-state area, as well as, on your side of the bridge in New Jersey? Talk to me.
Well, we have a school in Philly, and we taught at Broad and Olney. Beanie Siegel, he called him the Broad Street Bully. I see why. We taught over there. We actually spoke to him, but that's another topic. But anyway, we taught there in Broad and Olney, and we were teaching the brothers out there. I'm gonna answer your question. We were teaching out. I'm just prefacing it with this. We were teaching out there for a while, and they started throwing bottles at us, food at us. They made little kids who were under their mentoring do it, who are listening to us. We didn't receive a good we weren't received well there because we were teaching our people to change. They can change. The options possible. They were saying, "You gonna give us jobs?" We was like, "Yeah." They didn't want to hear that. They were used as a reason to not change by saying, "You gonna pay my bills? You gonna help me keep food in my family's mouth?" He was like, "Yeah, we can." No, man. They don't want to because they're comfortable in that. In that. So the reason why I emphasize on bought and only is because eventually we ended up leaving because we realized these guys weren't listening. So we ended up leaving, and people who were listening to us were afraid to come over there because of all the drug dealers that were there. We didn't care about that. But we realized after a while we were talking to the wind, so we went and taught somewhere else eventually. But my point is that shortly after that, there was a shooting that took place over there recently at the train station over there, Broad and Olney. Exactly. I think an old man was shot, a young man was shot in the arm, one in the leg, one in the back. The old man's in critical condition. Mm-hmm. And I'm pretty sure that some of the young men that were over there were killed. I'm pretty sure. And they were dying when we were over there.
This happened last week.
Right.
Broad daylight, mind you.
Right.
They were full of people who were commuting from home to work, back to work, whatever. Yes. Right.
They were dying when we were over there. And what's crazy is that when we taught over there, they would attack us and curse us out and fight us. But then no, not to be making racial, but one white cop would walk around. One. Not even these, there was one diesel one, but the one that wasn't diesel, one that wasn't this regular guy, they were as quiet as church mice. Disciplined, quiet, respectful, not a bottle was thrown, not a single curse word was thrown against us when the cops were present, when the white man was present. Now these guys is gangster and tough with us. They want to kill us, we'll kill you. We'll drive by on you niggas. They told us this. We said, okay, well, do what you gotta do. You can drive by, light us up. We're gonna clear the crime scene. A new batch gonna come here again and teach the same thing. So they realized, okay, these guys, they're serious. They left us alone. But my point in that is that our people, like I said before, I emphasized on this last show that love your neighbor as yourself is a very, very important scripture to apply that has been forgotten among our people. We've forgotten that law. And gun violence and black on black crime is nothing new. It's long before Philly. It's long before Cali. It's long before New York. I'm gonna read Hosea 4:1.
And the crazy part is, before you get into the reading and the scripture, the crazy part is, Bill, the informant for Fred Hampton, actually mentioned that in the movie. It was a part of the movie where the cop who was propositioning him to be the informant asked him, his handler, yes. Why didn't you go use a gun instead of using a fake police badge? And he said, yes, people fear the badge more than they fear the gun. He said the badge is it's like having an army behind you. Exactly. That's what he said. Yes. So he understood at that time that the power of the white man's badge is more powerful than any weapon on the earth without a gun. He's right. And that power still resides today, resonates today. Mm-hmm. Hosea 4:1. Hear the word of the Lord, ye children of Israel. So who he's talking to. For the Lord had the controversy with the inhabitants of the land. The inhabitants of the land at the time was us. It says, because there is no truth, nor mercy, nor knowledge of God in the land. The truth he's referring to is the laws of God, the commandments of God. Our people began to neglect the commandments of God. They began to neglect the laws of God, and therefore the knowledge of God and the truth was no longer in the land. And there's no truth in the land, there's no mercy either. That says, by swearing, it means false promises, false vows, or lying pretty much. Lying, killing, and stealing, and committing adultery, they break out. Like adultery goes into like fornicating. Like, for example, where I work in New York. Valentine's Day, where I worked at, all I saw was condoms everywhere, new and used, laying all over the ground, all over the place, because our people got caught up in that nonsense. That's how these unwanted babies are born. That's how unwanted babies are aborted and dismissed or discarded or raised by single mothers
because of all this foolishness and these holidays and this nonsense.
Can't forget about raised.
Right, and they end up being raised through ignorance. So it says by swearing, lying, killing, stealing, committing adultery, they break out, meaning it spreads. It spreads.
We got
and blood. Oh, I'm sorry, what you saying?
No, you're fine. I'm telling you, we got like 3 minutes left.
Oh, it says, and blood touches blood. Meaning what? Meaning brother kills brother. Brothers kill. So black on black crime. So why does blood touches blood? But there's no truth, no mercy, no knowledge of God in the land. That is why. Because our people are not keeping the commandments. We've been brainwashed to forget the commandments, forget what we're supposed to do, forget our responsibilities as a nation, and therefore black on black crime continues. When you offer alternatives to our people, they reject the alternatives. They reject the righteous option of just coming clean and and doing what's right biblically. They don't want that. They want the easy money looking over their shoulder.
Let me ask you a quick question, Deacon. So when you say black on black crime, it really gets to me a little bit, because I feel like if you're gonna say there's black on black crime, then it's white on white crime, Hispanic on Hispanic crime, like it exists. But black on black crime is just crime in general. People commit crimes where they are, so why do we have to label it as black on black crime?
We label it black on black crime.
We don't label it white on white crime when that happens.
Well, white on white crime, white on white crime is a bit more political. And what I mean by that is that white on white crime, they'll rob each other, they'll manipulate the stocks and rob each other. That's different. That's crime. But you don't see white guys driving by lighting up their own people. That's different. And white on white crime, I'm not interested in white on white crime. That's not my concern. They can do that's their business. I emphasize black on black crime extends to Hispanic on Hispanic crime, because they're black too. So that incorporates all of them. Black on black crime extends to Hispanic on Hispanic crime, Latino crime. It extends to that. Native American crime, Native American crime. That's all one. They're all the same people. Black on black crime. We just read it here. This is before white folks were around. Hosea 4:1 was we was in our own land doing this, because our people rejected God's laws. So white on white crime is not my concern. I emphasize on black crime because that's my people. Hispanic on Hispanic crime, which is black on black crime again, because that's my people. White on white crime is not my concern. And I'm not saying out of hatred. I'm saying because that's not my concern.
Totally understand.
What they do is their problem to each other. Now, they say there's more white, so white on white crime is more prevalent than black on black crime. But the crime that whites commit against each other is not to the same extent that blacks commit against each other, because white folks are a bit more covert with theirs. They're more covert with it. Do whites gun down the whites? Yeah, and that most definitely. But the point is that black on black crime is what I've lived in. I've lived it. I was raised in it. So that's my concern. You understand? That's what I'm not saying that black on black crime is the only crime that takes place. I'm emphasizing it because that's my people. That's my people. That's my concern. Fred Hampton and them, Malcolm X, he spoke about black on black crime. They emphasized it. He said, I was part of it. Malcolm X was a pimp. He was a drug dealer. So he didn't emphasize on white on white crime. He didn't care. He emphasized on white on black crime. And white on black crime helps further black on black crime.
I agree with that.
White crimes of the past are the reasonings behind black on black crime today, as well as the hatred that was already within us before that. The white man just exploited the hatred we already have for us. We already have for each other. He exploited it, made it bigger, furthered it. You understand? So that's why I emphasize on black crime. It shouldn't be offensive to you because I'm only speaking on it in terms of us.
I agree.
You know, black on black crime is, to me, I call it a family affair. Or I call it a disgruntled family. We're a disgruntled family. That's what we are, basically.
And I appreciate that breakdown, and just us both being a part of the media and having the power of the microphone. When we highlight Black on Black crime, we also have to just reiterate that it's something that also transpires other communities. And I feel like a lot of media outlets coin this term of Black on Black crime to really highlight what's happening in our communities, and that's not necessarily what is truly happening in our communities. So that's why I just wanted to get your opinion or pretty much speak on it, especially while we're speaking on gun violence that's happening in this tri-state area.
No, they label it. It is happening in our community. It definitely is, and it's not just the crimes of violence, but you also have crimes of our babies being aborted, and that's not our fault, because again, they put these corporations in our communities, and they play on our ignorance, and that goes back to white on black crime. They play on our ignorance. The Black on Black crime is twofold. It's self-hatred and self-ignorance, and there's also white supremacy and systemic racism also that helps exploit that ignorance.
And systemic racism.
But the Black on Black crime has been around before. I'm sorry.
I was going to say just systemic racism is a good 70% of it, in my opinion.
I would say 50, because the Black on Black crime has been around before white folks.
Oh, we're going to talk. We got to bring this conversation into March. Into the March Madness. We're going to bring this conversation back into, because I really want to get into it. I'm glad that we actually got a little bit of the gun violence conversation in today, because this is something that's truly taken over, our city right now here in the city of Philadelphia. Deacon, I appreciate you always for coming through, supporting us here at Revive Radio, dropping the knowledge that you always come through with, educating and re-educating us here on Revive Radio, and our listeners and our supporters. Thank you for coming along with the family and the tribe you always come with that supports, drop their comments, always asking questions. Shout yourself out once again so they can find you and stay locked with everything you got going on.
Hey, shalom, y'all. I'm Deacon Athan of Israel United in Christ. Visit us at israelunited.org. Hope I got some information. Hope you were edified. Read, do your research. It's no longer the time of ignorance. It's no longer the age of ignorance at this point. It's internet. Do your research. Pay attention.
And if you don't know, you know now, man. The Deacon is back every month, once a month, for this conversation. So make sure you guys tap in, stay locked to both our timelines and the Deacon timeline, IUIC.Philadelphia. Make sure you guys follow and push that blue button, man. Get them numbers up. Thank you, Deacon. Always, I appreciate you. Have a great rest of your week.
You too. Thank you for having me.
No doubt. Peace.
We used to scream black power while heroin was pushed. But at the end of the day, nothing's in vain. IUIC has been given a vision. The tents of Judah has risen. Many has attempted the mission. Minor murmuring, omitting, and missing the mark. Just reading that he had the flame of fire in his eyes gave us the spark. We on Paul's mission. We out on the road, purple and gold. From Mexico, Cuba, Haiti, Ghana, Sierra Leone. 144,000 boots banging, concrete crackling. These are our men repented at heart. The scriptures is proof. IUIC, we deliver the truth.